Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Kovacs here. Mishnah Yomi is continuing for Gimel Tammuz in chapter 8 of Gittin, Mishnah 8. Katav Sofer gets Leish. The Sofer, the scribe, wrote up the get for the man, because obviously the man has to give it to the wife. Vishover Leisha, and he writes a receipt for the wife. Now this will be a receipt for the payment of the ketuvah. When the husband, now the ex-husband, pays the ketuvah, she will give him the receipt, so that no one can claim that it was not paid. So they got the package deal where they bought the get and the receipt in one transaction. V'tah, and the sofer made a mistake. Now, the get was perfectly kosher, but not on get leisha, but he gave the get to the wife, v'shover leish, and the receipt to the man. That was reversed. V'notnu zeh lezeh. So it comes out that the wife is giving the get to the man, and the man is giving the receipt to the ex-wife. Lachar zman, then later on, the man looks in his drawer and says, why do I have a get here? I'm supposed to have a receipt. Vishover miyadisha. So he checks in with the ex-wife, and she has the receipt, not the get. Now, this is a problem because we never had the husband giving the wife the get, apparently. So this creates a similar problem that we saw the past couple of days. If she happened to get married on the assumption that she had received the get, when in fact she had not, Teitze mizeh mizeh, she has to leave from the new husband and from the old husband, meaning she can't go back to the original husband, even though they were never truly divorced. The kol hadrachim e'elu ba, and all of these penalties and consequences and negative fallout does occur. In the Gemara, they ask an interesting shaila. They say, well, what should this poor woman have done? How would she have known? And they say, she should have read the paperwork. She should have read what she was handed and made sure that's actually the get she received, which is interesting because 2,000 years ago, even women knew how to read amongst the Jewish people, whereas for 99% of the world, even the men did not have any idea how to read. So Baruch Hashem, we're the people of the book. We can actually read and write books and paperwork. Thank God. So back in the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Imla alter yatsa ein ze get. Now Rabbi Eliezer is a chiluk. He says if it happens right away. Now right away here means before the wife got remarried on the assumption that she had received a get, then it's not a get. So she hasn't gotten married yet. They'll go back and they'll give a get again properly. Make sure you read the paperwork and everything is kosher. Im la'achar zman yatsa. But if it's later on, meaning after the wife has remarried on the assumption she received a get, harei ze get. We assume that she was actually given a get originally. Lo kol heimenu min harishon la'abed zechuto shel sheni. And the first husband, now ex-husband, does not have a power to destroy the presumption that the second marriage was done correctly. The Rav Bartner here brings from the Gemara that we're concerned it was a kenunya. It was a conspiracy, a false news, that what happened was after she got remarried to the second husband, she realized things were actually better off with the first husband, and they've reconciled, years have gone by, they've forgotten all the fights, and she says, you know what, let's just fake it that I never received the get, and we can live happily ever after again, and I can get rid of this second husband. So they go and they switch the paperwork later, even though she had originally received the get as was proper. And Rabbi Eliezer has a strong logic also that people tend to read very important paperwork before they file it along. So if there was a mistake, it would have been found immediately. The fact that it's been found years later when this woman is already remarried, that smacks of kenunya, of conspiracy. And indeed, the halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer. Now the Mishnah brings another case, really interesting case. Kotav legarish et ishta. A man writes a get to divorce the wife in Nimloch, and he changes his mind. Beit Shammai omrim psola min kehuna. She cannot marry a Kohen. Now this is, obviously if she's divorced, she can't marry a Kohen, but even if she never received a get and the first husband had died, there's something called reach haget. It smells like a get. Now the fact that a get was written for this couple, sort of word gets out, and there's already sort of suspicion the Kohanim don't want to have anything to do with this woman, according to Beit Shammai. But Hilom omrim afal pishin netano law altanai. Even if a man gave his wife a get, but it was on condition, the lo naseh atanai, and the condition never happened. For instance, we saw a case where the husband wrote a get on condition that he dies from this illness, and then what if he recovers from that illness and, God forbid, gets killed in a different way? That get was totally invalid. Lo p'sola min kahuna. Even in that case, she's not puzzle from marrying a Kohen after the first husband passes away, and the get was not actually active, even though she received the get in her hand. On to Mishnah Tet, this is a very juicy case. Hamagorish Ishto. A man divorces his wife, everything was perfect with the get. Volana imo bepunduki. And then they shared a hotel room. Now, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I guess that's what this Mishnah is. And the Bartner points out there were Adim that saw them go into the room together. There's no Adim that something actually took place, but we assume something did took place. They were married. They were fully married after chuppah. They were familiar with each other. We assume there was a reconciliation, and they performed an intimate act that was intended to be a new marriage. But that's according to Beit Hillel. I'm getting ahead of myself. Beit Shammai omrim eina tzricha menu get sheni. Beit Shammai says they don't need a second get. We do not assume that they did something intimate for the purpose of getting remarried. Beit Hillel omrim tzricha menu get sheni. Beit Hillel says she needs a second get if she wants to go and marry someone else. If they want to reconcile and they're in Vegas anyway and have, a nice little second wedding, fine, mazel tov. But if she wants to marry someone else, they need another get because we assume there was an act, a physical act done for the sake of Kiddushin. Matai, when is this true? Bizman shedet garsha min nisuin. When they got divorced after nisuin, after chuppah, the second stage of marriage, when they were living together already as man and wife, they're familiar with one another. The Modim ben Garshim and the Eirus and the Beit Hillel agrees if they were divorced from the first stage of marriage, from Kiddushin only, when they're not living together in the same household. They don't need a second get because they're not so comfortable being together. We can't assume that in one night, it's in the same hotel, they reconciled and did a physical act for the sake of remarriage. Now the Mishnah brings an unrelated case, which is actually related to tomorrow's Mishnah. Knosa beget kireach. He married her with a bald get. Kireach means bald. Now we're going to see what this means. There's a special get for Kohanim who would get angry. If you meet an angry Kohen, that's normal for Kohanim. They are kaptanim, they're very careful, they're meticulous, they're very alacritous. They have a lot of fire of Hashem burning inside them. So you meet an angry particular Kohen, that's okay. That's how they are. So sometimes they would divorce their wives, and then once they calm down, they'd realize they can't get married again because a Kohen cannot marry a divorcee. So there was something called a get mikushar, a tied up get. They would write part of the get, one line, and then fold it over, sew it shut, get witnesses, then repeat the process. So this get would be folded multiple times. It was time consuming to write the get, and meanwhile, the Kohen would either calm down or become very serious and realize he wanted to really go through the divorce process. So a get kireach is one of these special get mekushar, these folded Kohanic gittin, but it's bald in one spot. It's missing some signatories on one of the folds. Now that's not valid. Now a regular get only needs 2 witnesses signing, but if you do this get mekushar and you leave out some witnesses on some of the folds, it is not valid. So in such a case, as we saw yesterday and the day before, teitze mizeh mizeh, she cannot stay married to a second husband if she was remarried on the basis of such a get. She cannot go back to the original husband, the Mr. Cohen, who didn't complete the get mekushar correctly. The kol hadrachim elu ba, and all of the penalties that we discussed would apply. We should all be blessed with the energy and enthusiasm of the Kohanim, of the priests, for the right causes, the right purposes. Yashar kochachem.